This is Ella playing with her mum's phone. This little cough, an early sign. A few months later, she was rushed to hospital, unable to breathe.
I'm going home today.
She had developed acute asthma. She suffered 3 years of repeated attacks before dying at the age of 9. Ella lived just 25 metres from the South Circular, one of the most polluted roads in London. Her brother also has asthma. The family now walks to school along quieter roads. At the time, Rosamond wasn't told about the dangers of air pollution.
Before she passed away, I probably resuscitated her between 20 and 30 times. Yes, you know they are breathing it in, but you really do not know what damage it is doing. You don't know until it happens. She wasn't born with asthma.
Revealed exclusively to the BBC Today is medical evidence that could result in air pollution going on a death certificate for the first time. Exhaust fumes contain harmful particles and chemicals such as nitrogen dioxide. According to Professor Stephen Holgate's expert report, there was a striking association between Ella's emergency hospital admissions and recorded spikes in air pollution. He said there was the real prospect that without unlawful levels of air pollution, Ella would not have died. The air that everyone's breathing here, whether they're walking around or in their cars, is so polluted that it breaks European Union laws. And it was this bad for the whole period that Ella was ill. Human rights lawyer Jocelyn Coburn is appealing to the Attorney General to reopen the inquest into Ella's death.
The UK needs to start complying with the law. This case, I hope, is another piece, a piece of the puzzle which will push the government towards decisive action.
Inspired by Ella, community volunteers close to where she died in southeast London are now gathering as much data as they can.
We'll just leave that there for 2 to 4 weeks and then we'll send it off to the laboratory. It's shocking, you know. I mean, I walk my kids along here every day to school, and I'm just conscious all the time that they're kind of breathing this in. My son's got asthma, I've got asthma. Something needs to be done about it.
During Ella's lifetime, no one made the link between her asthma and air pollution. The Attorney General is now reviewing the new evidence.
As shown in the video, our report is going to focus on the effects of air pollution on human life. Ella's story is a perfect example of what happens when we neglect the importance of air pollution and don't do our part to stand up against it. While this is a very extreme case, it's not the only one. Results and studies have shown that over 800,000 people die prematurely per year due to air pollution, due to a part of air pollution called PM 2.5, which we'll discuss later on in our video. We'll also discuss the other side effects from air pollution, not only death, but other causes such as asthma and whatnot. And our hope in this report is that you'll truly pay attention and feel motivated to do your part to change so we can all make this world a better place by decreasing the amount of air pollution.
So 29% of deaths from lung cancer are caused by PM 2.5, 24% of deaths by stroke are caused by PM 2.5, and 25% of deaths by heart disease are caused by PM 2.5. Now that's according to from WHO, the World Health Organization, and the UN, and Climate and Clean Air Collection. Just all these big health organization groups that are trying to better the world and maintain standards to keep us below that 2 degrees Celsius rise. So particulate matter, or PM 2.5, is pretty much the biggest, baddest particulate matter because it's so small and fine that it can travel further than any of the other ones, and it also penetrates further than most other particulate matter sizes.
So as Braxton explained, PM 2.5 is extremely small, which means it can penetrate further into your lungs than any other form of particle matter. This makes it the most dangerous. PM 2.5 is dangerous because of the effects it has on human life. It affects the total mortality rate. It is the cause of cardiopulmonary disease and asthma, and more than anything is the second leading cause of cancer right behind cigarette smoke. So as you can see, these are major effects, and this is why PM 2.5 is extremely dangerous.
Now that we understand what PM 2.5 is and why it is so dangerous, we need to understand what is causing it. One of the main contributors to PM 2.5 is vehicle emissions. By operating vehicles, they burn fossil fuels and those release chemicals into the air. Although vehicle emissions are the main contributor, things such as power generating, wood burning, and dust in the air also create PM 2.5. And as you can see, we don't notice these activities are contributing to the bad air pollution, and we need to do something about it before it is too late.
Although more research has to be done, all the research conducted has shown serious impacts to quality of life. Studies show that PM 2.5 is a huge problem, causing health issues and deaths all around the world. One way to combat this issue and lower health problems would be to place PM sensors in cities to keep an eye out and check the levels daily and warn people in advance so they can plan accordingly.
So in this part, we're going to talk about what individuals, businesses, and the government can do to lessen the impact of vehicle emissions and emissions overall. So for the individuals, we can carpool, use public transportation, which will all lower vehicle emissions and help keep roadways free, reduce traffic, which reduces the overall emissions. In your own home, what you can do is you can use energy efficient light bulbs, lower the thermostat temperature a little bit in the winter, keep it up a little hotter in the summer, just keep the overall energy costs down, which also save you money not having your electricity running all the time. So to put it in a perspective, by putting energy efficient light bulbs in your house, which tend to last about 6 times longer than regular ones, you're reducing the impact that it has on the factory that makes the light bulbs, because they won't have to produce as many light bulbs to sustain as many homes, because if a light bulb lasts 6 times as longer, that's 6 as many light bulbs they have to produce every year.
Another key solution individuals can participate in is simply staying indoors and staying informed on the current PM 2.5 levels in the area. A study was performed by Thomas Tallahan, a professor at the University of Chicago. He performed a study in Shanghai, China, and measured PM 2.5 levels inside and outside of several buildings. Results found that the inside of the building contained 31% less PM 2.5 levels than outside. He further discovered that when the doors and windows were closed, the building was at a 43% decrease in PM 2.5 levels.
Along with individuals, businesses can also do their part in helping and keeping pollution down. They can also keep their doors and windows closed in their buildings, and they could also hand out public passes to their employees. An example of that is Weber State gave out free bus passes to all of their students. You could just go over to the Union Building and pick that up. But Weber State is doing their part in helping keeping pollution out of the air. And buildings can also switch their light bulbs to energy efficient light bulbs. As we said earlier, if you change your light bulbs to more efficient ones, it's gonna prevent the company from having to make more light bulbs and create more emissions. And then they could also install solar panels on the buildings. That would be helpful for any building, houses including, and Weber State's also doing that as well.
Not only can individuals and businesses help out with air pollution, the government also plays a huge role when it comes to helping out. The government can give tax breaks for businesses that comply with these new standards. Not only that, they also regulate the amount of VOCs a company can produce while working on a certain project. VOC stands for volatile organic compound. These compounds are responsible for diseases such as asthma and are produced when wood, coal, and gasoline are burned. Limiting the amount of VOCs emitted by each compound would without a doubt decrease the amount of air pollution in the air. And also extending public transportation lines to reach further in each state.
So a good example of this is how Weber State has implemented electric vehicles, which are zero emissions, and they've also started the Mo Electric exchange, which allows the community members to exchange their gasoline mowers for electric ones, which are also zero emissions. And by doing so, they have saved Weber State money and their staff money, and also have saved greenhouse gases.
Now that we've been able to outline possible solutions from the 3 different categories of what we as individuals can do, what businesses can do, and what the government can do as a whole, we want to be able to focus what we would do after we've been able to consider our local problems and issues here in Utah. We want to focus our solution on Utah specifically, which then later would be adapted to each individual state. We would begin our plan by focusing our efforts on better informing the citizens of our community. And this would include in workplace and school trainings to better inform people of the dangers of air pollution and what they can do in their own individual lives. Most of us before doing this study had no idea the difference staying indoors and closing your windows could do versus staying outside on high air pollution days. Kids need to understand that when they're going out for recess, or pregnant moms need to know that when they're expecting a child and it's a higher pollution day that they should stay indoors that day. Another aspect that we thought would be important is providing accurate day-to-day information for each individual city in Utah of the current air quality levels. A lot of times we'll have a general number of the air pollution level for the day, but we would like for every individual city to have a website where citizens could go so they can stay up to date and know what they need to do to avoid being exposed to PM 2.5 or the air pollution. We also want to ensure that those tax incentives for businesses that comply with these standards are enforced. And luckily Utah has already done their part in doing so, and starting out with a few. For example, there's one called the Qualified Heavy Duty Alternative Fuel Vehicle Tax Credit. It's a mouthful. And what that has to do, it's an incentive that allows qualified members to be eligible for a tax credit if they are going to purchase a qualified heavy duty AFV. So that could be done for energy efficient vehicles on a commercial standpoint for individuals and families. Make it so that if you're willing to comply and do your part, you receive some sort of relief and the whole burden isn't placed on yourself. Another important thing would be extending the front runner and track systems. As of right now, the front runner runs from Ogden to Provo. But what if we were to extend it to run from Logan to Spanish Fork or even to Payson? How many more individuals would take public transport and decrease the amount of emissions in our air, or the air quality? This would take government funding, but by the government complying with these standards and businesses doing their part, we would hope that the savings would be great enough to then pay for the extension of the front runner. Weber State, with their example of replacing their replacing their public transport line to be energy efficient, if Utah as a state could do that, so every UTA transport bus was energy efficient, would make a huge difference. And this is our simple and basic plan. This is where we would start, and then with further funding and further data from the studies that we've done or would do in the future, we would then be able to progress. We're extremely confident that if each individual was committed in the state of Utah to comply with this plan, we would see a difference. And tragedies with what happened with the story of Ella would not be happening. Our children wouldn't have to worry about premature deaths because of the air quality, especially for future generations, because it's only going to get worse if we don't do our part now. And we hope that this report's a call to action so that you yourself would do your part and we can truly make a change here in Utah and eventually the world.